We have a great show lined up for you today on Browns Film Breakdown. I have to talk about Shedeur Sanders. Going to dig in a little bit more on the AFC North and consider what it means when these players, such as Jair Alexander, sign with others in the division on the veteran discount. Plenty to talk about. We got some training camp dates. We'll have more in the coming days. Let's get going on your Thursday edition of Browns Film Breakdown. All right, welcome in to your Thursday edition of the Browns Film Breakdown podcast. Jake Burns here with Peter Moses. We're going to talk about really nothing that is ultimately something. We're adding up little pieces of Browns news, little piece of, I guess, the most important thing to your fandom is that the Browns have officially arrived at a couple dates of relevance for you with training camp. That will, I actually ironically mentioned that on yesterday's show. The NFL sends us out a memo. Rookies report on the 18th, and then veterans will be in on the 22nd. So those are the two dates in July that things will get going. And that's a reminder that we don't know the open camp dates yet in terms of when you can go view it. Those are going to be few and far between this year, as we know, because they're on the road for two of those three preseason games. And those first two will be in joint practice sessions. So you will really not get a ton of opportunities to see the Browns in Berea on top of the whole restructuring and construction and all of that going on there too. I don't know, Peter, they might open up 6 of these things. It's going to be scarce, but we at least know the dates. And we're like a month away, or literally today, a month away from getting some 25 football in front of our face.
1 month away, baby. Let's go. I have a couple things to talk about to spice it up a little bit. First and foremost, Jake, my friend, I don't want to put you on the spot. Got a little gray coming in on your beard there?
It's worse every month, I think.
Bro, it looks great.
I think it's getting more prominent. My wife likes it, so that's, I guess, the thing that matters most in this equation. But yeah, the gray is, the pepper's coming in with a little more salt than it normally did. So
yeah, man, yeah. Let's go. You love to see it.
Older. We're getting older, man. We're on the
northern part
baby. Of 35. I will not do a Ryan Day. I will not just from Ingel any of this stuff. So we're gonna keep rolling with the El Natural. But yeah, that's a fact.
Sounds like you have a chance to beat Michigan then.
Just as good a chance at this point, right? Just as good a chance. So, ironically, did you catch the snippet of out in front of, they did the camp with the little guys were in Berea, and the amount of booze that Mason Graham received for the Ohio State Michigan segment there with Quinshon Judkins. I always thought it is interesting. Yeah, it's interesting how many, at least when I was young and the age of those kids, I felt like the northern part up to Toledo and really around the edge of up there was really a lot of Michigan people. That seems to have tilted over the years, but maybe now it's working its way back in the other direction. So I don't know.
I was thinking a lot about our defensive line, listening to you talk about Mason Graham on yesterday's pod. And I think it's pretty fun that you've got Mike Hall and Mason Graham in the middle of that line potentially. Two guys living the rivalry in our front four potentially for hopefully years to come. We'll see.
Then you get Jawan Briggs, Cincinnati guy, got a bunch of the local flavor for Ohio there. No, it would be cool if those two became the duo that is around for 2 or 3 contracts, because they're certainly talented enough and they play the way Schwartz wants them to play. But it is kind of funny seeing that between Zenter and then you got obviously Mason, and then you have Judkins and
I will say, listen, as someone who you just described exactly why I am a Michigan fan, by the way. Born in Toledo. My dad grew up there during the 10-year war, chose the side he did. Families had season tickets to Michigan for 100 years. But I think Zinter, and I, again, not a film person. I'm here to just represent the common man. But Zinter's injury was clearly a 2-year injury when that happened. So to kind of put on him in a scheme that nobody believed in the first place, with an offensive line coach that clearly nobody respected, it seemed like, or really got any results, I feel like this is a fresh start for him this year.
I would call it a redshirt year. To your point, they really didn't have a good direction. He's coming back. Anytime you're an offensive lineman anchoring on legs you've broken the year after, and especially so late in the season, which is a little bit of why I'm nervous about Mike. Mike Hall, who hurt that knee in week 18. You don't love those late season injuries and trying to get back for the start of the season. So Mike's injury about a month later than Zenter's. But to your point, yeah, it's definitely one of those with these interior guys, and fingers crossed, you knock on wood here with Mike at his young age, and is a special athlete he is. And so he doesn't carry as much weight as a, typical defensive tackle. He can come back a little better. But yeah, Zenter, I mean, there's no reason to draw any conclusion definitive off of the Dickerson experience and what they were doing up front schematically and kind of being thrown into things, and how patient they were with him at the beginning. So I'm totally with you on that. I don't want the idea. Listen, there's some guys around him who were drafted both immediately after and a little bit later. McCormick, and then there's another name out in San Francisco. It's eluding me right now, but there have been successful results around it. So it would be really nice if he could put it together. But again, it's going to be hard for him to find the field this year, other than the thing going wrong we don't want to go wrong.
But that's
which
also
is more
okay.
Injuries.
I don't think he needs to get on the field. And I would just say, historically, being the best lineman on a Michigan line for several years, including a national championship team, historically tends to translate to the NFL. So I would just like to say, hey, let's not all forget. I feel like that pick can definitely blossom, even in 26.
Had him a little bit at center too. So he's going to get moved around. He's going to get a chance to play. I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time between Joel Wyatt and Ethan that they've been healthy for 17 games. It'd be great. We want to believe that could happen, but you better have a guy ready to go. And he's their first piece of the rotational puzzle inside. So he will play. He will play for sure. And I think he will be better. And I think he'll be better coached and better fit for what they're trying to do as well. If you look at what power run game Michigan employed when he was there and how the Browns are trying to fit back into that. So hopefully he's a part of the puzzle this year in a good way. I think he will be. Again, a part of the puzzle. We talked yesterday's show, Peter, extensively about maybe one of these two young guys solving the quarterback room. And I don't know if there's a sympathetic connection with Zach Edey. It's a very specific esoteric NBA reference here going on. If you have paid attention, really Big Ten basketball. So you should know who Edey is. I mean, dominated the Big Ten for a while. They ironically the news almost hits at the exact same time that these two young guys, Shedeur Sanders, part of the 5th round pick quarterback struggle, trying to make the team first and foremost. We all believe he will, obviously, but fighting to get snaps with the ones in training camp, gets a 101 mile per hour ticket in Strongsville. You can tell he's new to the area. There's so many cops up there. You cannot do that on I-71. Can't. Too many.
First thing I'm going to say is I've got a lot of questions about Zach Edey's character.
I think that's fair. Let's go at it. 35 zone's a little different than a highway. I will say that much. 35 zone, definitely in a residential area. You're cooking at 101. Let's separate the two. The highway, if you have been up in Cleveland at the right time in that Strongsville area, the traffic can really cook. So
also,
yeah.
Listen, I don't want to be presumptuous about the people listening to this show, but as someone who has had the good fortune of being in some nice-ass cars that I didn't belong in, also including me valet parking cars in a different part of my life, you can get up to 101 in a nice-ass car, and it feels like 60. So I just want to put that out there. That, like, for that. I don't think he was driving, a Hyundai Sonata at a 101. I think
no, you're right about that.
Like, they really, and this is not an excuse, and you should have better judgment, but also where the Browns have been on the morality scale here. I guess if you want to dig into this or make this content, then God bless you. Good for you. Then you tell us how he needs to mature, or he's spoiled, or whatever you need to infer from this. Probably just be safe, man. I would say we saw Myles Garrett basically almost die and have a banged up season because he flipped a Porsche going probably as fast on a residential street. Yeah. So just be safe, guys. That's it. How about that? Just be safe.
Yeah, Myles on a country road just ripping it and flipping that thing is Easy to forget how scary that was. That could have cost him his life. But I personally have never. I don't feel like I've ever gone over 90. Maybe I have and forgot, but I feel like every car I've been in, not as lucky as you in this one. Whether that's the family SUVs of recent or the decade, probably like safely decade-old cars when they were being driven at the time between high school and college. I couldn't even have pushed that number. So I have not been in a car where the pedal can melt to the floor and you don't even notice you're going 90 miles per hour to nowhere.
Let me also clarify a couple things to make sure that people know I'm a man of the people. My first car was older than I was, 1987 Honda Accord. Thank you very much. So everybody can relax here. Also, when I lived in Los Angeles, my first job was valet parking cars at a really fancy hotel, and this will tell you how old I am. But I had the privilege and also the horror of being next in line at the valet stand when Suge Knight pulled up. And if you know anything about hip-hop, you know Suge Knight is currently in jail for attempted murder and also rumored to do plenty other murder in earlier parts of his life. And he had one of these cars that I can only describe as like an oversized, it's like a super value. It's like you supersize a car, basically, where like it was a BMW, and it was a sedan, but it was also just like an extra large custom, looked like a Bentley. I sat in the seat and I felt like I was Kermit the Frog driving a real human car. And I had to park it up top with all the nice cars too. And, the stakes were pretty high because, again, this man has done murder. So,
yeah, you didn't want to ding that car up in any way.
Yeah, it looked like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, basically, in a car. So, yeah, I would just say, everybody, I don't know, go watch some Guardians or something. Don't worry about Shedeur driving fast. He'll be fine.
Yeah. Again, highway, you kind of get, I just think it's 80s is 35. That's a different place to be going north of 100 than I-71. Just saying, if you've been up there, you've been around it, that stuff is consistently moving like 88 miles per hour at times. Like, it's moving. So, get caught trying to pass somebody, right?
Yeah,
there you go.
Before the speeding ticket, though, I just want to get a quick temp check on you, Jake. You haven't been to camp. You've seen tape. You're seeing what everyone else is seeing. Just give me right now what you think, and at this snapshot, you think the depth chart looks like on September 5th.
That's tough. I think
it's not a fair question. I'm not going to hold you to it. It's June 18th, baby. Come on.
It's probably going to be Joe and the two rookies, is my hunch. It's just a hunch. I could be totally wrong. They could love Kenny. I still think it's pretty defined who Kenny Pickett is, and I'll stand on that until they show me otherwise. But I think they're going to start Joe. And I guess some of this could be how the two young guys are performing in camp, but they like Dylan enough to already give him some ones. Shedeur has had a pretty strong OTA performance in the levels he's been playing at with the 2s and 3s. He can only play with who they put him out there with. So my hunch is they're keeping 3 guys and going to give the rookie the chance to be the backup, and Joe is going to ride. I mean, they're ultimately going to try to figure out this year whether they have, I think we talked about this, like if they have the back half of the year, because Joe is not a guy, just like we're talking about Wyatt and Batonio, and the reason that there's skepticism with this team is that these people you're counting on, and I think they will end up counting on Flacco to start the season, they'll last 17 games. And you also need to do some sort of solving if these 2 young players have any part of what it takes to make you avoid taking a pick toward, combining your 2 picks in the 26th first to go get a quarterback. So I kind of go back to what scenario happened for Brock Purdy, where he got a chance to start the last half of his rookie season. He gave them enough to believe in him. He started the back half of the year, and he performed well enough that they didn't feel inclined to push the envelope to fix their solution or find a solution. Now, some of that was Trey Lance was like coming back, and they still wanted to see what Trey Lance had. There's other little parts of that equation. But my point is, if you want to see if Dylan or Shedeur can be your answer, you got to give them a chance. So I just feel like Pickett ends up being in the way. So the Pickett trade might have been a part of, hey, let's find some sort of baseline insurance in case maybe Flacco goes somewhere else or Flacco doesn't want to come here. That's backup for that. And then, you're sort of spending OTAs, mini camp and training camp, figuring out what Kenny's value is and pumping up that value to maybe move on somewhere else. So My hunch, which is meaningless in this entire conversation, is purely Joe and the 2 rookies to see what they have with the rookies by the end of the year. I think that just naturally plays out that way.
I think you can't play Flacco in the preseason just because you need that time to play
series.
Everybody else.
Yeah, maybe a series, something like that, a couple. Yeah, he won't play much. I don't think he'll play much.
I'll take you back also to a simpler time, 2023, when everybody who had a podcast, every bearded dude who had a podcast and a baseball hat, was calling Kenny Pickett the second coming of Ben Roethlisberger for lighting it up in the preseason.
This is true. This is true.
You know, both for his own sake here or anywhere else, I would love for him to light it up in the preseason because it would probably give them a lot of options in terms of figuring out if they do want to keep him. But I'm with you. I think you can. I think all of them seem like they're kind of competent, and no one really seemed like they were struggling. I mean, yeah, there was some grumblings about Gabriel being short, but like they already knew he was short when they drafted him. So to kind of say that they're holding that against him feels, and they took him in the 3rd. So I felt like of all the headlines or people talking about what they saw in Maria, nothing was like this person was bad. Like that didn't sound like anything. No one was like concerned about someone from any of their performance. And if it just kind of stays that way, who knows? I think
they'll get a chance.
I do think these preseason games should be more interesting for our sake as fans, just because you're going to look at every rep in a way that's like, those questions just kind of lead to attention.
Yeah, and you'll be zoomed in as much as we can from other locations. They'll be in Philly and in Carolina when they do those joint practices, but those will mean a lot. They'll get a lot of live reps, against other defenses trying to get better too. So we'll be tuned in as close as we can, but I continue to the point of your question and the point of where I'm at with it is I just don't see how Kenny Pickett fixes the now or later for them. So I have been out from the minute they traded for him, but we'll see, man. You never know what goes on with quarterback here. The only other piece of news, which was a stark reminder of how much I just hate this division, is that Jair Alexander heads to Baltimore on a really cheap deal. It's like a base $4 million, $2 million incentives deal. Ridiculously cheap for a very talented player, with the obvious caveat of can't stay healthy. Hasn't been able to finish seasons recently. Which is ironic because his first few years in the league, he's better than Denzel. Denzel misses 4 games a year, and it's really turned. It's a very interesting lesson into the patience of evaluating the totality of NFL careers. But it is, like I said, a very talented player. And if you look at the collective of Baltimore secondary, which is Marlon Humphrey, still effective, not elite as he once was, still effective. Nate Wiggins, who they selected last year's draft, Kyle Hamilton, Malachi Starks this year. They added another veteran who matters, and his name is just escaping me at the moment. Great preparation for the show for me, but this is a ridiculously talented secondary, and it feels like all of these players are tempted to go to one of the 3 other teams in this division. It's like, oh, this player got released. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincinnati, logical landing spots. That to me is consistent. It's just an annoying reminder of the consistently good nature of this division. And I keep saying it, and you guys probably hate it, but I always find myself wondering, like, what would it be like to be Jacksonville, to just be in the AFC South and like have a chance every year, no matter how bad the year was before or where the state of your franchise is, you still got a chance. You still got a chance every year, or to be one of those NFC South teams with a division that's perpetually average. And how much it sucks to be in the AFC North. And I ask you this question, thinking back on all the Browns teams we've seen, 25 years, and the ESPN did a whole quarter century team, which is very flawed. I need to talk about that at some point. Very flawed label of the quarter century team for the NFL. But do you think there were teams capable in Browns history beyond just like, oh yeah, 2007 probably would have, oh yeah, maybe 2014 if that team started 7-4, they would have. I happen to think in the series of the last 25 years, there were some other Browns teams who were good enough to fight for a division title, if not win a couple of them in both of those divisions. I just think there were at least, and if you even look in the last 6 years, you got a couple of those that would have been so much better. I just am so annoyed by that.
I'm going to answer your question, Peter.
I hate it. I hate the division.
I'm going to answer your question by not answering your question. God. And I think it also is what I'm most interested in seeing in this team this year. Sure, if we were Jacksonville, that'd be cool. but also then you would have to root for the ugliest colors in the dumbest state in the country. So that's going to be a hard pass for me for a myriad of reasons. But I think when we win in this division, it feels so much more earned, even just individual games. And I also think the biggest problem with the Browns for the last 25 years is we often beat ourselves before anyone on the other side of the football even beats us. It's just a consistent amount of self-inflicted wounds that make the margin for error holistically over 2.5 decades so much smaller, because if you can't even get out of your own way, top to bottom, from an organization, from the players, the coaches, the front office, ownership, like there's just been so many different versions of us getting in our own way to prevent ourselves from having a chance to win. So yeah, I would say sure, our division is hard and probably the hardest in the last 25 years, but it also hasn't been helped by we haven't gotten out of our own way to begin with. And I think what was so nice about the stretch of football between 2018 and 2023 is it was just football where we were making plays, where we were executing, and even if we weren't winning, we were making plays that led towards the chance to win football games. And last year, you just felt like that really was something we hadn't felt from like we don't have a chance here since the Hugh Jackson era, basically. So I would say to you, for this season and for you being in your feelings about this division and the Ravens secondary, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The only thing we need to see from this year, if we want to have any level of positive vibes heading into this upcoming draft, where we have 2 picks, potentially 2 pretty good picks, no matter how the season goes. My goal for this season and how I'm viewing the lens where success is a function of expectation is, can we not get in our own way? Can we line up and do things that are football winning plays that give us a chance to be in games? I'm fine getting beat. I just don't want to be beaten before the other chance has the ability to do it. And so I think, to answer your question as well, like, are we going to go 1-5 in the division? Potentially. But I sure as hell would like those 6 games to be a reflection of, man, the Browns lined up correctly. They were really hard. They challenged these teams. And like, frankly, too, in the Stefanski era, he's been pretty good in the division, even when the team's been absolute trash. So I would say, I hear you, and I guess there's just something about when you see my face on this pod that makes you all sad and dopey about just like the Browns' last 25 years. But I think like the Ravens are going to probably be in the AFC Championship no matter how good or bad the Browns are anyways. And I would at least like the Browns to be a pain in their ass on the way there. And I'm still not convinced that, and like Cincinnati, sure, they smoked us once last year. But like they always play them tough. And like, again, we started this pod talking off a little bit about that D-line. If they can get pressure and they can run the ball and they just do Stefanski things that he has done for the majority of his time here pre-Watson, I just think that would be such a palate cleanser for everybody if we're not beating ourselves before the game even starts.
Deep analysis. Totally respect everything you said. All I'm asking for, though, Peter, is that can we just have Pittsburgh and Baltimore have a New England post Belichick Brady? Can we just have that? We have it at some point. We haven't had it in a quarter century. It doesn't happen. They have not had a 4-win season, a 3-win season. That's all I'm asking for. It's got to be great to be not even the Bills in this scenario. That'd be awesome. Win the division multiple straight years. That'd be great. But like the Dolphins, who are like just getting pounded by the Patriots for like 20 years, but now the Patriots stink and you get to beat up on them. I just want.
Are we sure that the Dolphins are beating up on the Patriots this year?
Yeah,
are we 100% sure?
No, this year I don't know. I don't know about this year, but I'm just saying like the last few years. You would agree the Patriots have been pretty bad 2 straight years, and it's just like,
sure.
I would like. And Cincinnati's obliged with this. They've done this. They've had a couple stretches here where they've been bad, way more good than bad, but they've been bad a couple times. Just asking for the rest of the division, particularly the Steelers and Ravens, to just have a couple really bad years. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for much. I just want to feel what it's like to be on the other end of that. a little bit. And that would be nice for once.
I'll make a bet with you.
That's it.
I'll make a bet with you that someone else other than the Browns in the next 2 seasons wins less than 6 games in the AFC North.
I think I would take that bet with you. The Pittsburgh one hangs as obvious low fruit, right? If Hayward retires, Rodgers is crummy this year, but then they're still sort of whiffing on the quarterback next year, and they start like whatever that Mason Rudolph face is these days has to start for them next year. They're the most obvious under 6 wins candidate, but I still have to see it. So what is the bet we're doing live on air right now? Like a round of golf? Would that be fun?
Round of golf.
Okay. At the turn of the 27
calendar
year.
This time,
that's it.
This time in 2027, I will buy you a round of golf if neither the Steelers, Ravens, or the Bengals have won less than 6 games.
Less than 6 games. I would be pretty surprised if that happens. That would be unprecedented for Tomlin. The Bengals have Joe Burrow and the wide receiver weapons, even how bad that defense is, and then we know what Lamar. I think you would get the listeners taking my side of that bet, Peter. I think you would.
1 hit away, baby. Everyone's just 1 hit away.
That's it. All right, you got it. That's the bet. Jair Alexander, all the worst in Baltimore, my friend. All the worst. We are going to take a break. We're going to come back from break, and then I'm going to do player spotlight. Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward. It'll be really fun because there's a lot of positive with those guys that I'll pinpoint that parallels with the film room up at the website today as well. So stick around for that. If you are on the free side of the show, come over to the website, 30% off. And that is where you can get into every day's podcast being ad-free and unlocking the subscriber portions of these shows, which will be a big part of what we're doing for the next month leading up to training camp on the 18th. So thanks for being here, or come back and join us after a quick word from our sponsors.
Drive safe.
Okay, starting our player improvement spotlight. We're going to do this for a slew of guys and try to hit on them in the back half of episodes and really have some complimentary film that I will try to put in your guys' lap that explains a little bit of where I'm coming from. So we're going to start with 2 of the best players on the Browns roster, just because I want to reiterate this is an improvement thing. And yeah, these 2 really, it's hard to paint a picture for improvement, but they need to be at their best this year for the Browns to have any chance. Okay, so you start with Myles Garrett, and if you track Myles' production grades, it's really an astounding amount of consistency. For his first 4 years, he collected defensive grades from PFF. And again, you know me well enough to know that I don't use these as some sort of Bible or guiding light, but I do think at a baseline, they provide, especially for pass rush and defense in the lower portions of defense. Coverage is a little bit dicey, but in the lower portions of defense, I think they do a great job of guiding some of the production. You obviously dig into the tape, and you obviously want to hone in on what they do well and don't do well yourself, but it's a baseline. In his first 4 years, he was north of 80 grades with a collective defense that includes your pass rush and your run defense, and all of it combined into north of 86 his next 3 years. So really the spot that he got some struggling marks was some of the defensive grade stuff. His first 4 years in the mid to low 60s, the pass rush grade kept getting better, right, as he went. 2019, we know he missed some time, so the snap numbers were a little bit lower than they traditionally are. But then if you look at 21 and beyond, this is when Myles has kicked it up to a whole other level in his prime, in his second contract. And this is what you want: a really strong rookie contract that ends in 2020 with 63 pressures. You flash another season, 2018, with 67 pressures, right? You convert sacks, 15 his second year, 14 his fourth year. And then let's give him another contract. We're going to sign him one of the biggest DN contracts in the league. Makes plenty of sense. Since then, the snap count numbers have not deviated from what they have been in those first 4 years. Actually, his most snaps in a season came in 2018 when he had 1,012. So from there,
seasons that he has played consistently without being hurt, injured, or removed for any portion of time, you're talking 2020, he had 875, and I'll just go north of that. 21, 866, then 816, then 844, 822, and the pass rush reps have been pretty consistently inside the 500, mid to low 500s, and then a couple seasons last year in 2022 where he was at 490 and 477. So he's a consistent on-field player for, so you're talking about 5 straight years of being very consistently on the field. And in the middle of that, as we all know, in 22 was the scary car accident. He didn't miss much time. We know obviously 2020 was the COVID season and all of that. So there's been a tremendous amount of variables at play, and he's still out there playing all the time. So what you love is the second contract where he goes up a complete notch. The pass rush grade has been north of 92 for 4 straight seasons, including 92, 93, 94, 93 again. The defense collective grade as the run defense has gone up and better, north of 73. You get grades the last 2 seasons of 83 and 78. So those have improved. And then you're talking about pressures, right? 78 pressures, 73, 89 and 23 and 83 last year, 18, 18, 15 and 14 sacks. So this is an exceptional football player. It's really hard to pick apart what he can do better based on how productive he has been. If you look at some of his data on how he has performed basically like the moves he uses in pass rush. So if you've watched Miles, and I'll try to compliment this in a film room, but you know that he prefers to live a little bit more in the speed world than the power world. Like what I mean by that, power moves are bull rushes, that long arm where you're burying your arm into the chest of the offensive tackle, and sometimes where you convert, where you're upfield quick and then you convert speed into power late, right? You're selling, you're turning the corner, but then run through the chest of that guy. So he's not a big power rusher, but he can do it. And this is what makes him really uniquely special. So if you're looking at what he has found success with pressure-wise, 50% of his pressures come on speed moves. And his most popular usage in the speed department is that I think I would just label for Miles the speed rip move. So what that is he's upfield up to the high side of the short, and then he dips that inside arm and rips that inside arm underneath the outside arm of the tackle and tries to turn the short corner. That's his most popular move that he tries to do most often. And 18% of his pressures came from that alone. All right. He also will use a ghost technique. It's not as popular for him, but he will get up underneath on the speed side and then dip the shoulder and kind of get low to the ground and not give the offensive tackle a place to put the hand. He'll use a swipe chop. So you're swiping the hands of the tackle away and trying to turn the short corner from swiping them away. And then he'll use that cross chop where he will, put the foot in the ground, chop the arm down, and then try to turn the corner that way. So the speed move stuff is his most popular. He will counter inside here and there, probably needs to go up a notch with that. That's something that he could do a little bit more of. And then he's not a big spin move guy, but he will use a spin move, and he does so at about a 9.8, 10% number. If he goes power, he's just going to use a bull rush. That's where he finds the most success. Every now and again, he will use a long arm if he identifies a weakness, and he doesn't. And this is something I would love to see him, because we're talking about 3 specific things, right? What do we want to see? What's he do best? I'm telling you, where does he struggle? I would like to see him convert speed to power a little bit more. That is the pathway for more success for him. Converting speed rush into power, which I think will create some pressures that are a different style and a different pace to what he has done throughout his career so far. So again, you're pinpointing like, hey, what does the best player in the world need to do to get better at this position, right?
you're nitpicking a little bit. I think the run defense has gotten better over time. He's more willing to close down on those counter pull concepts. I think he does a nice job there. I think he does a good job setting the edge. It's gotten better over time at that. The pathway for him is just the coverage gets better. He gets fewer double teams and the opportunity rises. I think that's something schematically, if you listen to the recent podcast I did on, Mason Graham, and what Jim Schwartz was talking about is getting double teams and line slides to shift away from Miles or be more neutral. If you get that, he's going to be highly productive. And I think it's just, again, a matter of the Browns finding ways to get quarterbacks to hold on to the football a little bit longer, more consistently. If that happens, that's his pathway to production. I think, again, if you're talking about where does he struggle or what is the pathway to more, it's just the leadership element. It's the consistency, staying where it's at, and then schematically giving him more opportunity to convert pressures into sacks. I think that's the pathway to more. As we know, the highest end for Miles is another Defensive Player of the Year award. I think he is so talented that if he doesn't win a second one of those, I would be pretty surprised and it would be disappointing. Now, we do know that that's a narrative-based award, but nonetheless, it is something I think he needs to win for his resume to cap. He's on the pathway to the Hall of Fame, and if he just wins all pros, he's probably fine. But I just think another one of those would cement what we all agree is the legacy of a really special player. So it's for me, can they do more to supplement him, create more back half confusion to have quarterbacks hold the football longer, and create more predictable pass situations, be up more in games to create that, right? What does Miles do best? It's really hard to say anything other than pass rush. I mean, he can rush from whatever way you want him to rush. He can win whatever he wants to do. I think there's some tendency breaking stuff that he could add to his game this year, converting more speed to power, confusing the sort of baseline of what offensive tackles think he's going to do. If he can do that, I think he's on a pathway to going from maybe 15, 16, 17 to like pushing the NFL record. He can do that in a given season. He looks better than ever. And pathway to more is dependent, I think, on how the scheme works and how often they get teams in third and predictable. That's it. Okay, Denzel Ward, let's hit on him as well. So I think if you trace back Denzel's early career, his first portion of his rookie contract before they extended him, you are talking about a player who, like, everybody universally agreed is good. Pretty damn good football player. Pro Bowl his rookie year, Pro Bowl his fourth year. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint issues you have with Denzel, right? It's really hard. And if you look at the chief complaint was that he misses 4 games a year, roughly 4 games a year. He had that happen to him. I think 3 games he missed his first year, 4 he missed his second and third years. He played 15 in 2021. That's when the extension happened. Then he missed 3 games in 22. He missed, let me see here, in 23, he missed 4 games that season, and then he missed 1 game last year. So that's probably at the top of the issues that you would have with Denzel, right? If you're tracing again, where does he struggle? It's just consistently being on the field. We all know about the concussion issues that have happened. It's been well documented. We've all covered it. We've all talked about it. We've all been concerned about it. But that issue is real. It lingers. There were issues again last year. And what you hope for is health. Because if he can stay on the football field, he's pretty consistently. And again, he's been north of 650 snaps every season, except for 2023, he played 657. But other than that season, he'd also been north of 750 snaps. So he plays a lot, but he does miss little portions of games, as we know, right? So of seasons, I should say. And there have been games where he's left early, right? There's been those types where in like week 2 against Jacksonville last year, he only played 11 snaps.
Baltimore game week 8. He only played 28. So there is some data inside of that where it's like, okay, how many is he actually playing, right? Inside of a game he plays. But when he plays, he's really good. I mean, as far as data tracking goes, and if you want to live in the world of grades and secondary stuff, I don't think it's the safest space to live, because I think oftentimes they don't grade well when the ball isn't thrown your way. But he is as consistently good as you will find. He's teach tape in transitions. He's really clean in arriving to the football, breaking up passes, getting a hand in there, making it annoyingly challenging to catch the ball. He is in man coverage in a scheme that favors how he plays, which is what he's in right now. He is best as a man coverage defender. Press, not necessarily jamming you, but press man, where he can bail and he can use those transitions. He can play off man as well. All of those elements are what he's best at. And as far as man coverage corners in the league go, there's a strong case to make that he's one of the best doing it. That's his strength. That's what he's best at. Now, there are some issues he arrives at with bigger body receivers and catch point going up over top of him, but that's going to happen. I mean, he's not the biggest guy in the world running about 5'11", 190. So at times he's just not going to make those plays, but more often than not, he is breaking up those throws down the field, but that is something that comes up. The big body receivers have given him some trouble in his career. But when you look at the ball production over the last several years, including 17 pass breakups to lead the league last year and 2 interceptions, it's really exceptional stuff. I mean, he's a perfect scheme fit. He is a perfect man coverage corner that gets isolated on one-on-one sides often and can make the most of almost any matchup that he faces. And he's still a young 28 years old. I personally think as long as he has some continual health here, he's due for another contract in Cleveland. The 4th overall pick, getting a 3rd contract is a great outcome with your organization. I expect them to pay him. The only things that you would like to see be better and more consistent as we follow along with, what do they struggle with? I think Denzel's consistent awareness and production in zone coverage is a spot that I would highlight for some concern. If you look back at the Chargers game, a couple of situations where in that week he didn't practice a ton coming out of concussion protocol. You get in the game, you give up a cover 2 touchdown on a 3rd and long where he doesn't really understand wide side of the field on 3rd and 19 and is too quick to try to break up forward instead of carrying under a vertical. And you can put that on the safety too. Some of the things in zone coverage is subjective, but the deep touchdown against Denver to Mims up the hash, and he's an invert too, and it's just a beat late to get there where he's supposed to be in deep half on that play. That's another one. And again, there's another one in the Chargers game where he looks a little bit confused if he should be carrying Quentin Jefferson up the sideline. If you want to see those, they're all going to be in the film that I post. I just think the consistency in zone coverage does not mirror the consistency in man coverage that he has. I just don't think he's as clean in that world as he is on the other end. Now, he could have a good year, and I'm not saying he's bad. I just think it's not as elite as the man coverage that he puts into play. So how does he get better? How does he improve? I think tackling improving. He missed 13 tackles last year, career high. That 19% number is relatively high for him, but he's willing. He comes up and tackles. He has some spectacular highlights where he'll get up underneath of a block. He's sliding under people, being creative, getting guys to the ground. But as far as being in the fit, making tackles, not as consistent as we would have liked last year. And that 13%, that 13 total number and 20% missed tackle percentage is relatively high. The ball production was elite. The consistency in man coverage was elite. The zone coverage could use an uptick. I think if you see more zone coverage uptick, you see more getting your hand on the football from an interception perspective. I think you see a little more all pros. It's hard to pinpoint how he gets there ultimately, because like a year where you get 17 pass breakups, that exceptional, and a couple interceptions, it's like, how does he get to the next level? I guess it's having a 7 or 8 interception season. The most he's had in a year is 3. And interceptions aren't the end all be all, but as we know, this world of kind of statistical analysis, it still lingers pretty high for the guys who do end up getting on those all-pro lists. He's good enough to be a first-team all-pro. I think it should have happened by now, but that's what he needs to get to. But I think to get there, you got to eliminate some of the zone coverage errors that have come up and really get some good fortune on getting some more interceptions, getting in that 5, 6, 7 territory. I think you get there. He's extremely consistent. He looks good in OTAs and minicamp. I expect him to be at the top of his game again, and I expect some contract conversations to start happening as well to extend him and push some of the cap burden as the Browns are getting through the Deshaun Watson setup and all of that into the future to alleviate some of those issues of the immediacy of his contract. So I think he's a third contract player, and I think he's exceptional, and I think the Browns expect him to be exceptional again this year, and I don't think we should expect anything less. I think he's an all-pro player. I think he's got to get an all-pro one of these next 3 or 4 years, and I think he's on track to do that given he can stay healthy. So Miles and Denzel, top of the list for health. Health is obviously part of it. Top of the list for what the Browns really need to be great. They need these guys to be great again, and then you're supplementing it with the people around them. If these two aren't great, it's hard to find a way to get some wins you maybe didn't expect them to get this year or to compete at a level we didn't expect them to compete at. So that's it. Those are our first 2 spotlight players. We will have more on the controversial side, more data analysis, more film discussion on others who maybe have a little bit more varying opinion. So we will get to that, I promise. Otherwise, thanks for being here today, checking out the show. We will have more content on these spotlight guys through film and newsletter in the coming 24 hours. So keep your eye out for that. And a reminder on the 30% promotion that we have going and telling somebody or offering this up as a great gift to somebody for their birthday or something of the like. It's a really cool thing that this is 30% off to lock you in for 25 and all of 2026's important free agency and draft cycles as well. So thanks for being here. Have a fantastic Thursday. And as we always say, go Browns.